Hello, welcome to Broyhill on Aviation Leadership. You'll notice that I'm a little bit more informally attired for this particular episode. That's because it's getting to be 90 degrees or so here in Texas. And as a result of that, apparel tends to get more abbreviated. Also, when you're in the shelter at home, work from home environment, there isn't really anybody checking up on your dress code, so that helps as well. We're taking a break from the Leadership Traits series this week to address something that relates to leadership traits, but perhaps is more timely in the current situation and something that I feel needs to be discussed. Now, I'm going to go right out in front and tell you this. I'm not going to try to be controversial with this, although I suspect what I have to say will offend some folks. For that, I apologize in advance. It's never my intention to offend anyone. But I think in the current situation, we need to address a trait that I discuss in this book, although in a different context. We need to address the trait of leadership courage. Now, the book I'm talking about, for those of you who have not been around, is this book, Business Aviation Leadership from the Traits to the Trenches. And it talks about all the different, 15 different leadership attributes and traits that leaders manifest in the accomplishment of their jobs. Chapter 10 is about leadership courage. Now, in the book, I define leadership courage very narrowly in the context of leaders being willing to deal with toxic employees, whether that's terminating them or putting them on some kind of improvement program. But today, that's not what I'm going to talk about. Today, what I'm going to talk about is leadership courage as it is displayed, or in my opinion, not being displayed in the current coronavirus pandemic. So, bottom line up front, as they used to always tell us at the Army Command and General Staff College when they were teaching us the fine art of giving briefings, I don't think we're seeing courageous leadership at all. In fact, I would call it the opposite of that. So why would I say that? Any leader knows, if they're in a military role or even a political one, that sometimes to achieve an objective, to go from point A to point B, we must accept casualties. Sometimes those casualties are notional, in that they can involve displacing people from a comfort zone or forcing them to do different things or maybe even hurt their feelings a tad. Sometimes those casualties can be real and involve the loss of human life. But if you're a leader in the military or political arena, you need to be prepared to accept those, because it's a reality when you're trying to achieve certain things under certain contexts. We are not prepared, and no leader that I've seen is prepared to accept the human casualties we are incurring as a result of dealing with this pandemic. Now, before you make any conclusions or whatever about me being a cold-hearted individual, I have lost both parents to cancer, lost a brother as well. I know what it's like to lose somebody close to you. It is a terrible situation, and for those who have lost or will lose people that they love as a result of this, my heart goes out to you. It really does. At the moment, we've lost close to 60,000 people due to the coronavirus. The level of infection or the number of infected people in the U.S. is close to about 100,000. Close to 1 million, pardon me. So, that's about a 6% death rate, which parallels what the world is experiencing also. But is that really accurate? We have the numerator. We've got the close to 60,000 deaths, but do we really have an accurate denominator? Is it really a 6% rate? I would argue not, probably 2 to 3 times lower than that. Because the amount of people who have actually had the virus and either A, not gotten tested, or B, not even known they've had it, or both, is considerably higher. So the actual death rate, probably closer to 2 to 3%. Now, I have no data to support that. That's pure conjecture and speculation on my opinion, but there are anecdotal studies out there that indicate that people can have the virus carried asymptomatically and not even know they've got it. 25%, I think, has been the latest estimate. They did a study on a hospital in New York where they tested all the doctors there for antibodies. Of the 60 doctors they tested, 40 showed the antibodies, which means they had had the disease and never knew they had it. So while we are so concerned with the amount of people we're losing, according to the latest data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, we've put close to 16 million people out of work. 16 million people. Now, of those 16 million people, how many of them do you think were getting their health care through their job. I would argue probably the vast majority. I don't have the data to tell you how many. But you've got millions of people, literally, who now can't get their medication, who now can't see their doctor, who now can't get the treatment they need because they can't afford it. And everything from getting lisinopril if you've got high blood pressure, or getting chemotherapy at the other end of the spectrum, now people can't afford that anymore because their insurance company isn't paying for it. So while we're so focused on this small portion of the population who may be at risk for coronavirus, we're taking our eye off the ball. We're taking our eye off all the people that have other conditions. And I think, frankly, we have not yet begun to see the amount of collateral damage we are going to experience on the far side of this as we see casualties mount from the side effects of our economic lockdown on this virus. So what am I saying? Leaders need to step up. They need to start opening the economy again, and they need to accept the risk of casualties. And here's the irony of that. How many more people are we actually going to lose? The answer might surprise you, and I'm sorry that I don't have my normal statistical apparatus worked up, but I can give you some generalities that I think are applicable. So, the reason we went into the lockdown was never to stop the amount of deaths. It was about slowing the spread, right? So this is like a cartoon, if you will, a cartoon illustration. So you can see the virus peaks very quickly over time. I've got like a 9-week curve drawn out here. Don't go to the bank with that. I'm sure it's not accurate. The point is the cartoon illustrates that we go above the capability of the medical community to respond to the disease. We lose the ability to treat. We lose the ability to save lives, right? Okay. Notice the volume under that curve is X. I've just assigned it an arbitrary value. Okay, so take a mental snapshot of that. So, the reason we went into containment was basically to keep the curve from peaking as rapidly as it did. So this is a cartoon that illustrates what happens with containment. So the goal of containment was to spread it out, slow the spread. That's what you hear people say, slow the spread over a longer period of time. But notice the volume under the line, the curve, is still approximately the same. Folks, it's still going to be what it's going to be. We may lose a few less people because we're going to be able to get more people treated, get more people on ventilators, although frankly, you do some reading, you find out getting on a ventilator is not necessarily a great place to wind up because the success rate once that happens is not terribly high. But the bottom line is people get treated, so we save a few. But the bottom line is from an overall statistical perspective, we're going to lose approximately the same amount of people whether we do this or whether we had done this. So knowing that we're still going to lose approximately the same amount of people, we need to have leaders have some guts. They need to make the gutsy call. Here in Texas, fortunately, our governor, Governor Abbott, has decided that he's going to start allowing businesses to open on Friday to a 25% capacity, things like restaurants and movie theaters, which I applaud. That's a gutsy decision. He's willing to accept casualties, as well he should be. Folks, we're not dealing with the bubonic plague here. We're not dealing with a 40% mortality rate. We're dealing with a mortality rate that's probably in the 1 to 2 to 3%. We don't know what it is yet. And in an effort to save X amount of our population, a very small X, we are putting a much greater amount of our population at risk, much greater. We could get into the whole discussion of the Bill of Rights issues we're having here and the basic civil rights we're depriving people of. That's not really what I'm about, although I've written about it. What this is about is leaders having guts, leaders being able to make courageous decisions, leaders taking the risk and being willing to incur casualties. And again, ironically, probably about the same amount of casualties they're going to incur anyway. So as you continue to analyze the media stories, as you continue to listen to people muse on, as you continue to listen to politicians make statements either in print or over the airwaves, just think to yourself, is this what my version of courage looks like? We have to get our economy moving, folks. We have to get all these people that are not on health insurance back on their health insurance, or the risk we are going to take And the mortality we are going to incur is going to be much, much higher. And all it takes is a politician with the guts to make the right decision. It takes a leader to have the guts to make the right decision. And sadly, too few of them are willing to do that. They're more worried about what's going to get them elected the next time around. Which is handy, because the next election cycle will take place in the fall. And the massive amount of casualties I suspect we will incur from all the health insurance losses and other things are going to occur after that. So it's pretty handy for them. But a real leader isn't afraid of the consequences when they know they're doing the right thing. A real leader makes the gutsy call. And I'd like to see more of that. I hope you will as well. Please subscribe if you'd like to hear more of my rantings and musings in the future. Thank you for your attention and your time. Please stay healthy. Take care of you and yours. And until we talk again, tailwinds to all of you.